G'day and welcome to the Game Day Squad Fantasy Cricket Show. I'm Stu, that's Dill, and that's Haz, and we're the Fantasy Bros. Happy New Year, everyone, and a massive thanks for joining us once again in 2026. Whether you're tuning in live or catching the replay, you've timed it perfectly because we've got a huge show lined up for you today, where we'll be previewing both Round 8 and Round 9. So if anyone joining us live has any crucial start-sit questions, let us know in the comment section and we'll do our best to help out. Before we get to preview those two rounds, boys, Happy New Year to you both. How did you get on in round 7, Haz?
Happy New Year, Stu. Happy New Year, Dill, and everyone tuning in. Round 7 wasn't a good one, let's say that. Best finish was 45th in Challenger, which leaves me about 25th overall for the season. I'm not even going to touch on Contender and Classic. Let's just forget about those ones. What about you, Dill?
Yeah, g'day, Haz, Stu, and everything in. Happy New Year to everyone. I hope you had the hangover is well on its way to getting fixed, especially when you've got the boys live on the show. Welcome to Izzy as well. Happy New Year to Izzy. Good on you, mate. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, look, I'm with you, Haz. I just forget about the previous round and round 7 ranks were pretty horrible, really. My best finish was my pod team in Challenger, which got to 25th. Obviously, my focus was all about the Classic Cup or the GDS Cup, and unfortunately, my run has come to an end, boys. It is all over for the Fantasy Bros. Some poor decisions meant man got up by about 70 points at the end of it. Look, I just had a look at the stats. Cal just put them onto Discord, so if you haven't looked yet, make sure you jump on Discord and see them. I would have beaten 5 other coaches with my score. Obviously, there were 15 other coaches, I should say, including myself. But that's the way that the cookie crumbles in the cup. Unfortunately, my matchup meant that I didn't get the job done, so I'm out. But good luck to everyone else that remains. There's 8 remaining coaches, and this is where it becomes really tense now that every start-to-sit decision is super important for the next couple of rounds. So good luck to those 8 coaches. Stu, hopefully we didn't all have a horrible round. Are you able to get some positives out of round 7?
No, absolutely no positives for me, mate. You've really dampened the mood as well with your loss in the Classic Cup too. Let's see if we can find some happiness and joy nice and soon. Unfortunately, yeah, Gunners, we've got that midday show because we've got an earlier game, obviously starting in not too long from now. So thanks for joining us, Gunners. Eliminated from the cup as well. Disappointing news for a lot of people around. Maxi, Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us in once again, buddy. Yeah, Dill, no good from my end either. Disappointing 39th was my best finish across all 3 comps. That was in Champion. So I now slipped to 7th in both the Challenger and Champion overall season-long leaderboard. Slipped down from about 5th there. So luckily the fall wasn't too big. But yeah, look, round 7, not great for all 3 of us. And sorry to hear you lost from the Classic Cup. But that just means we can now focus on those season-long ranks and see what we can do to get back into those higher up on the leaderboards for the rounds and back in prize card territory as well. So it sounds like the 3 Fantasy Bros are due a pretty big bounce back. Let's get that happening nice and quickly. Has a bit of a different show today than usual. Not only the earlier start time, but we're combining 8 and 9 together. What can viewers and listeners expect from today's combined show?
Yeah, so as always, our live preview shows will look at all Big Bash fixtures. Usually we focus on one round. However, with round 8 being our doubleheader today and the next round kicking off tomorrow, we will cover both round 8 and round 9 on this show. We'll highlight our pod options for round 8 and then discuss our favorite picks for round 9 in the keeper, batsman, all-rounder, and bowler positions before sharing the Fantasy Bros consensus team of the round to see who we're keen on to roll out in our teams. Bro Showdown always will continue as always, and where you, the viewers, can win some handy cards for your Oz Cricket teams simply for tuning in and letting us know who you think will prevail each week. New users can sign up to GameDay Squad using the promo code SUMMER, SUMMER, in all caps, to get 3 3-player common packs, as well as a whole heap of bronze cards to get you your free-to-play starter team rolling. Stu, have you got we've got a lot to get through for both round 8 and round 9. Let's get started.
Yeah, let's do it, Haz. Thanks for that. We got 2 fixtures for round 8 there on the screen there. Obviously, we've got a game kicking off at 3 p.m. So for those not on the Eastern Seaboard here, it's about in 70 minutes time. So we should see some round 8 team lists for the Renegades and the Sixers in about half an hour, maybe 45 minutes or so. But so we're back to Marvel Stadium here for this match. And I think the Renegades have had most of the games at Geelong now. So some of the scores from the Renegade players might be a little bit different here. But based on last season, the averages at Marvel Stadium were actually pretty decent. Players scored on average the second highest points across all 3 positions, and they averaged just shy of 40 GDS points for the season last year. Interestingly, first innings batsmen still only scored 23 GDS points, and the chasing team was slightly below with about 20 GDS points. So with that in mind, it looks like a bowler or all-rounder dominated fixture based on those numbers. And last season, the Renegades allowed an average of 40 points to the Sixers, and the Sixers limited the Gades to about 33.5 points. Game 2, we're off to Ninja Stadium at about 6:15. So that'll be the normal game. Hopefully everyone's got their squads in ready for the 3 p.m. First fixture. The usual game time at 6:15, we'll see the Hurricanes and the Scorchers. Weather for both games should be fine, so no issues worrying about who we're going to start or sit just in case. Clear skies for both fixtures. All players average about 37 points at Ninja Stadium, with the first innings being a little bit less. Batsmen are scoring 25 points, whereas the chasing batters are averaging closer to 31 points per match over the past 2 seasons. Scorchers have allowed 39 points to the Hurricanes players, and the Hurricanes have limited Scorchers to just 29.25 points, which I find quite surprising. But obviously the Hurricanes were super successful last season. Dill, let's start with you, mate. Based on those 2 fixtures for round 8, does anything that stand out to you in terms of the players that we should be looking at? Obviously, a very shortened round, only 4 teams to choose from. What do those stats tell you?
Yeah, firstly, obviously, the Renegade Sixers game over at Marvel, I think, as you said, it's going to be dominated by bowler and all-rounder, and I think that's sort of where a lot of my options are going in the first game. But it's the second. It's a pretty interesting between the Canes and Scorchers. So we saw them match up earlier in the season. It was the Canes bowlers who dominated in the GDS scoring then. That was at Optus Stadium. We obviously go over to Ninja now, and I sort of expect something similar to occur. So more than likely, it's going to be a really bowler and all-rounder dominated round. We obviously need to pick a couple of batsmen and a wicketkeeper as well. So it'll be really interesting to see where everyone goes with probably some limited options. But I think the pod play is going to be quite important this round.
Speaking about pod plays, before we preview some of the round 9 fixtures, how about we spend some time having a bit of discussion about some of those potential pods for round 8. We won't do a full positional preview, given there's only 4 teams and we want to spend plenty of time for round 9 as well. So people who are unable to join us early this afternoon can still catch up maybe later on this evening or early tomorrow. So we'll come back to the round 9 fixtures shortly. Staying on round 8, we've got a couple of pods there on the screen. Haz, do you want to kick things off and tell us why you're putting a bit of faith in Mitchy Marsh as a potential pod this round?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Mitch Marsh shapes as pretty much the definition of a pod heading into round 8. It's been a pretty frustrating start for him to start the season, registering scores of -2, 3, 20, and 8 so far. That form has seen him slide dramatically from our pre-season consensus top 5 all-rounder rankings, where we actually ranked him as the 5th best all-rounder, or we thought could be the 5th best all-rounder for the season. He's now a player who has so far failed to deliver on those expectations that we set for him. He's currently ranked as the 29th all-rounder for the season, averaging just 7.25 points per game. However, as we know, class is permanent, and Marsh's pedigree in T20 cricket can't be ignored. Few players possess his ability to take a game away from the opposition as quickly as he can once he gets going. It feels like only a matter of time before that long-awaited bounce-back performance arrives, and I've got a feeling it could come in round 8 against the Hurricanes, even though, like you said, Dill, it could potentially be a bowler-friendly matchup. So far this season, Marsh has had a tendency to be a 6-and-out type player during the power play, which has hurt his scoring output. But if he can manage to survive the power play, it will go a long way in helping his score. That said, his best score of the season so far did come against the Hurricanes in their round 5 matchup, which offers some encouragement heading into the clash. However, I think that probably the most important thing is with the T20 World Cup squad being announced today and the World Cup looming, Marsh will be desperate to rediscover some form and confidence, and that urgency can often bring results. The clear risk is obviously role-based. We know Marsh is not going to bowl, so if you are picking him, it's going to be purely on his batting ability alone and hoping that he goes off. But that's exactly what makes him an intriguing pod this round. Low ownership, low floor, but genuine round-breaking upside if everything comes together.
Yeah, really disappointing start to the season, particularly after that -2 one-game cameo last year where everyone was a little bit frustrated going, oh, here we go. We got the, limited overs captain coming in for a cameo. Let's see what he can do. And it hasn't gotten any better, to be honest. And yeah, definition of a pod, absolutely correct there. Obviously, the downside is capped, with no bowling. So we are relying on him with the stick, but he has shown in the past, in all formats, that he can absolutely go nuts in any given opportunity. It's just a balance. Do you go for someone who's only scoring points with the bat, or maybe someone who's not quite as talented with the bat, but getting plenty of overs with the ball? And for me, that's why I have to look past Mitchy Marsh until he can show some glimpses. You're a brave man if you want to go down that route. So let's see who's going to be brave enough to follow Haz. Thanks for that pod there, Dill. Well, mate, tell us about Shawnee Abbott.
Yeah, so I guess on the flip side, we're talking about an all-rounder that just relies on his bat, and really, Shaun Abbott probably an all-rounder that really relies mostly on his bowling, and to be honest, probably should deserve the bowling tag for good reason. But look, yeah, Shaun Abbott's my pot of the round, and he returned to the Big Bash after being released from the Ashes squad. He instantly made an impact, which I love. He bowled his 3 or almost 4 overs. He got through half of his 4th over, taking a wicket and adding the 10-dot balls. Plus, he had a catch, and then he had 3 runs, which, probably doesn't really matter too much. But he finished with 39 GDS points in his first outing, which is a decent score there from the bowlers, considering all bowlers this season have averaged 32 or just shy of 32 points across all players so far. Sabah now heads to Marvel Stadium, where I said we talked about at the start there, the GDS points on offer are plentiful. The reason I love Abbott in terms of a pod in my eyes is the GDS position he's listed in. He's a pod because he's the all-rounder rather than a bowler. And I think there's a lot of other decent all-rounder options available, including his teammates in Jackie Edwards and Ben Dwarshuis. That all-rounder tag rather than the bowler. Last season, Abbott only had 2 cracks at bat during his 5-game stint, and he finished with 12 runs. So we're not going to rely on him with the bat really at all. It's going to all come from his arm. And look, the stats at Marvel last season certainly support Abbott having a really good game. Whether you consider him as a bowler or even as an all-rounder, we can look at both sides of it and both stats, and they both support Sabah this game. Last season, all-rounders averaged 48.2 GDS points at Marvel, which was the third highest at any venue, whereas bowler stats averaged 47.6 GDS points, which was the highest of any venue. So we look at it either way. I think Sabah's going to have a big game. And it was really the quicks that dominated at Marvel last season. They averaged 42.5 GDS points, which again was the most for any bowling type at any venue. So it really goes against my rule of picking all-rounders that only have the one dimension. But I think that's why he's such a good pod. It's just so hard to ignore the talent that he has with the ball in hand. So look, let's not worry about the points with the bat. Maybe he takes a catch or 2 in the field, but let's just focus on the points with the ball, and hopefully he can dominate at Marvel.
Yeah, mid-season positional upgrade for Shaun Abbott would be pretty handy, wouldn't it? I'm not sure that is going to happen, unfortunately. So we're going to need to rely on plenty of points with him with the ball. Bella's joining us. G'day, Bella. Happy New Year to you as well. Cal's in the house. Happy New Year, Cal. And Maxie, he's a big fan of the Shaun Abbott shout. I think a few of us pretty keen on Shaun Abbott in this shortened round as well. Boys, for me, the one man on screen we haven't spoken about yet, Jake Fraser McGurk, I think he's the absolute boom or bust type, point of difference type play in a shortened round. Obviously, if it was a much longer round, it'd be a lot harder to go that way. But he's a man that's done nothing, let's be honest, this season so far. He scored just 35 runs in his 3 knocks, which would actually have him second only on the bowler only list, alongside Chrissy Green, tied with 35 runs, and behind Xavier Bartlett by 3 runs. And they're obviously all getting plenty of wickets with the ball, and he's supposed to be dominating with the bat. So clearly that's a pretty gross start to the season and a big reason why JFM won't be played by many coaches at all. Last night, we saw a bit of a masterclass from Chrissy Lynn. Now, some of us Heat fans might have turned that off pretty quickly, given how poor they were with the bat and how good the strikers were to start their innings. But Chrissy Lynn returned home to Adelaide and blasted a 79 not out from 41 balls. You might be asking, why am I bringing this up? Well, in Chris Lynn's three prior starts as well, he'd actually scored less runs than JFM. He'd scored 31, 4 less than Jake Fraser McGurk. So, look, coaches knew that Chris Lynn was probably due a pretty big game, and those that were game enough to play him after those, an average of 10 with the bat, were nicely rewarded with a massive score, and probably a big reason why they would have featured higher up on the leaderboards and probably got through in some tight Classic Cup matchups. I know for me, I didn't have Chris Lynn at all in any of my sides, even though, he'd been probably in at least one team in the previous 3 rounds. Yeah. It was just that one extra week that I couldn't hang on to him, and that was the one week that really hurt me. Obviously, Chris Lynn's been doing this for a long, long time. Jake Fraser McGurk started his career with a bit of a bang, went to the IPL and had some success over there and gone pretty much downhill since. So I'm not saying that they're the exact same player and Jake Fraser McGurk is likely to get a bounce back anytime soon, but his return to Marvel, I think, is definitely going to suit him. He's the 5th highest run scorer in Big Bash cricket at that venue. He averages a modest 27, but he strikes at 140. And he hits a boundary on every 5.75 balls faced, which is pretty handy. He's had 17 innings at the ground. He's had 3 50s to his name. He's passed 30 on 3 other occasions. And he's also, we might remember that massive 95 from 46 balls against the Heat in mid-January last year. Is the confidence meter high for this pick? Absolutely not. But if you're looking for a bit of a boom or bust pod, with the potential to skyrocket up the ranks like Chrissy Lynn did for a lot of coaches last night, then he could well be the man to do that for you this round.
Yeah, I went back and had a look at my score just while you were talking about that Chris Lynn knock there. And if I'd played Chris Lynn over Ben McDermott, I would have easily won my cup matchup in Classic. And I'm exactly the same as you. He was in at least 1 or 2 of my teams every other round previously. That just makes the difference. Look, yeah, like you said, you touch on Jake Fraser McGurk, his game 38 last year against the Heat at the end of the season. And it just shows the talent that Jake Fraser McGurk is. And I know that during and after that game, he really credited the mentorship from David Warner. And I guess they're a similar type of player. We've seen David Warner have some really down games as well. And we know that just the next one is around the corner for him. So, look, I think it's a great pod. Like you said, he's back at Marvel. He hit those 95 runs at Marvel, so why not take a punt on him now? And he's going to be in one of my pod teams in terms of probably the challenger side, and definitely hoping for a big game from Rooster.
There you go. Looking forward to that. Righto, everyone. That'll be it for the round 8 preview. Short and sharp there for round 8. Obviously kicking off in about 55 minutes time. When the team lists do come out, we'll come back to the first match and have a quick chat about any interesting things that might have occurred as a result of team lists. But we're going to move on to the round 9 fixtures now. We've got 4 fixtures in round 9 and they begin tomorrow. Haz, might get you to run through the first 2 matches, mate, and tell us some of the stats that matter for Friday and Saturday's game.
Yeah, of course, not a problem. So game 1 for the round is going to be Heat versus Stars. So once again, this round, or should I say this round, is a Stars double. So Stars players will get the opportunity to have 2 cracks at a score, but you will get the best score. So it's not a combined total. They will get the best score from their 2 matches. So their first match will be against the Heat at the Gabba at 6:15 Australian Eastern Standard Time tomorrow night. I think, hopefully, the Fantasy Bros will be heading along with GameDay squad to watch that game live. So hopefully that's going to be an absolute cracker. Regarding some stats, some key venue stats there. So all player averages about 40.9, which is the second highest average this season for all player averages. The first innings batting average is roughly about 26.5, and the chasing batting average is 27.3. So there's not much difference between what side bats first or second. It's pretty similar there. Last season, the Stars allowed an average of 33 GDS points to the Heat, whereas the Heat limited the Stars to an average of 29.8. And then moving into Game 2, we can also see that we've got the Thunder versus the Hurricanes, and that's going to be at 6:15 at NG. We've got clear skies predicted for that game, so no rain around in Sydney, thankfully. All player averages this season is actually the most. It's 42 points per game. Well, the first innings batting average is 38.2. But this is where I think the biggest difference in comparison. The chasing batting average is only 20.6. So we've got an 18-point difference for batting averages from the first to the second innings. So across the last two seasons, the Thunder have allowed an average of 34 points to Canes players, whereas the Canes have limited Thunder to an average of 31.5 since the start of last season.
Thanks for that, Haz. Dill, you want to run us through the two Sunday games, and then we'll have a bit of a chat about some of the stats that jump out there?
Definitely. The third game of the round is that Stars second game. So they're up against the Renegades. That is on Sunday. Looks to be some clear skies in MCG. Obviously, weather can change over the next few days. Well, over at the MCG, all player averages are 32.7. There's not a huge amount of difference between who bats first and second. 20.6 batting first, 19.2 batting second. So very similar there. The key difference for me is the Gades allowed an average of 43.8 to start players last season, whereas that's to an average of 35. So look, the Stars are on a big run at the moment, so I expect something similar to happen there as well. And then the final game of the round is the Scorchers up against the Strikers. That is the second game on Sunday. A little bit of a later start. It's 8:15 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time because that game is at Optus Stadium. So that time, a big difference to your final selections. All player average at Optus at the moment is 32.2. Again, not too much difference in the batting averages. 21.7 if you're batting first, and then 18.3 for the chasing team. But again, it comes down to the difference in the teams and what they allowed last season, at an average of 43.9 to Scorchers, whereas the Scorchers were able to limit Strikers players to only 27.4. Obviously, we saw a lot from the Strikers, and very disappointing from the Strikers last season, whereas they're sort of bouncing back a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how those stats flip around.
Yeah, wow, that's quite interesting. The stat that sticks out for me is definitely that Thunder versus Hurricanes, where the bat flip might be super important there, and seeing which team bats first, they might have a much better opportunity to score some points, and some coaches might want to have a think about starting some batsmen in the second innings based on those stats. Obviously, they are stats, and obviously, if you just base your whole team on stats, which we do fairly often, can definitely crumble pretty quickly. And playing no Chris Lynn last round is a bit of a testament to that. So, yeah, that bat flip down at NG will be pretty interesting. I might be less inclined to start a Hurricane bat up there if they're batting, if they're chasing. So that might need to occur. And if we move on to a Thunder player, some are doing really well, some aren't in a lot of form, some are up and down. And then if we want to move over to the Scorchers game and Strikers, some of the batting points in the first and second innings are pretty low as well. So coaches might want to be targeting the Gabba and the Gabba game early to get plenty of batsmen there, and then seeing what can happen later on for the other matches. But yeah, that bat flip should be super interesting. Anything stand out for you, Haz, or we want to move on to some bat and wicket keeper previews?
Yeah, I think just quickly, I think you touched on the averages for the game for the Scorchers versus Strikers being pretty low, and obviously people trying to target the Gabba. The MCG is pretty low as well. Like if we got a first innings batting average of 20 and a second innings of 19, I think, like you said, I'd probably be targeting that Gabba game. We know the wicket's good. I know there's plenty of runs on that wicket at the moment. So that's probably where, if you're looking to target batsmen, that's probably the game to do it. But if you're looking to target bowlers, the other games might be to do it. It could be a bit of a play based on the game and what the stats say.
All right, beautiful. Let's jump into those round 9 positional previews then. Of course, we spoke about the round 8 pods already. Round 8 commences in 50 minutes time, and round 9 will commence tomorrow on Friday. So make sure that when you're following along, you know that we're talking about the round 9 fixtures on screen. And for those listening, got the top averaging players in the bat and wicket keeper position, with Cooper Connolly highlighting that and going from strength to strength. Sammy Harper, gee, who would have thought we'd have his name on that list halfway through the tournament. Timmy Seifert still ticking along nicely. Matty Renshaw and the Heat coming slowly back down to earth. And Finn Allen looking pretty solid there with a 57-point average. Haz, let's start with you, mate. Who are you looking to target in the bat wicket keeper position, and why?
So it is going to be that guy, Finn Allen, your favourite New Zealand player. He is averaging 57 points so far this season, and it's highlighted by that massive 106 point performance against the Heat. But just as importantly, he hasn't dropped below 30 points in a single game yet this season, which is probably a bit of a indication that he might have come a little bit, learned a little bit from last season in the Big Bash, and is not just a boom or bust type player. And we can actually rely on him a little bit more from a GDS perspective. So he meets the Strikers this round, a team he had success against last season despite some low scores. He posted scores of 68 and 35 in those 2 matchups. That 68-point effort came from a half century that included 4 fours and 3 sixes. So we know that the upside with Finn Allen is very obvious.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's that his floor this season is probably a little bit higher than it previously was. So even when the runs haven't flowed freely, he's continued to find ways to score. His fielding has been pretty good so far this season, with 4 catches, 2 with the gloves and 2 in the outfield, providing a reliable floor when the bat doesn't explode. That floor becomes even stronger with the expectation that Inglis will probably remain with the Australian squad once the New Year's test begins, meaning Allen should continue keeping, or should get the gloves back, I should say.
Yeah.
And that's particularly important at Optus Stadium, where Allen last year really thrived behind the stumps. He took 5 catches and effected a run out across just the 5 games at Optus Stadium, underlining the added value he brings in those conditions. At a venue he's become familiar with, and while in solid form, he offers both a ceiling and reliability, which I wouldn't have thought that Finn Allen in the same sentence would provide. Reliability and a ceiling. It's his level of power that he produces week to week. That's something that I want to target in my sides. And in a round that would probably be dominated by coaches playing stars players due to that double that we talked about, Allen could be a bit of a pod if you're thinking that you may have too many stars players in your side in round 9.
Yeah, I do like that shout. He's definitely someone that I will not leave out this round. And like you said, yeah, showing a bit more maturity, definitely learned a bit from last season. Change that technique around slightly, backing his ability. I think we're going to see him go large this round for sure. Who are you targeting from the bat wicketkeeper deal?
Yeah, just before I talk about that, the hard thing for me for Finn Allen is also having Cooper Connolly in that bat position as well. And it's going to be difficult to play both of them, especially when we've got that round, as you say, Has, with the stars on the double. So it's going to be quite an interesting way to construct your squad and having to make some of those decisions. But talking about the stars double, I know a lot of coaches are going to load up on stars. And look, there's a really good reason why. Joe Clark and Campbell Callaway, in terms of the bat, decent options. Tommy Rogers, a bit unfortunate, a bit unlucky with that injury as well. And then he slid down the order last game and didn't actually get a bat. But look, with so many bat options this round and the position being so volatile, it's such a boom or bust option unless you've got some upside in terms of a Cooper Connolly or gloves. An out-and-out batsman is either going to score well or not score at all, which we've seen plenty of times. So for that reason, I'm pretty happy to take a punt on someone like Joe Clark, even though he is coming off that 60-run performance against the Thunder, and too often we've seen a batsman go well and in the following game fail. I just think there's a little bit more consistency there from Joe Clark, and having that 2 bites of the cherry, I think, just adds to that as well. It may mean that I run the Clark-Harper combination, which I'm a bit nervous about. I think a lot of teams are going to do that as well. But look, the stats support the Clark decision. So at the very least, I'm definitely going to have Joe Clark in most of my teams. The Stars play both the Heat and the Renegades. First up, they've got the Heat, who have allowed an average of 45.1 GDS points to batsmen this season, which is the most in the comp. So when we're looking at that back wicket-keeper position, they're allowing quite a lot of points. Break that down further. It's all the top order that be doing the damage. The top order have been averaging 66.2 in terms of the openers when facing the Heat, and that includes people like Consta scoring 79, Lynn scoring 72, Allen scoring 106. So it's all about that top order against the Heat. They're just not able to get them out in that early power play and then in the next few overs. So I'm really keen to target him then. The other game as well, that second game against the Renegades, could be just as fruitful for the openers. Gades have allowed 50 GDS points to opening batsmen. So with 2 bites of the cherry, as I said, I'm happy to go with one of the Stars batsmen in my lineup. And look, I think Joe Clark's as good as any. He's going to be, whether it's facing the first ball or in there with the second at the other end, I think it's going to be just as important. And I think I'm preferring to go him over someone like Campbell Callaway or Tommy Rogers at the moment, just because they're likely to slide down the order a little bit. So yeah, Joe Clark for me. And like I said, pretty nervous about potential Joe Clark and Sam Harper double. I never thought I would say that out loud, but let's go. Let's jump on the train. Let's do it.
Yeah, I think a lot of coaches are going to be in the same boat, looking at their teams and going, what am I doing? But the numbers certainly back it up. I don't know if we'd go the same route if the Stars didn't have the double, but that obviously makes things a little bit more appealing, given that if they fail once, then they've still got another bite at the cherry. So that's why I think, yeah, a lot of coaches will have a few extra in their squads for this round. I'm gonna do it, boys. This is probably the curse that we all need. But look, honestly, how good is Sammy Harper looking? And don't let the stat center fool you either. It says he's sitting second for the most runs with 194. That's just 8 runs behind Matty Renshaw. But Renshaw has actually had 5 hits compared to Sammy Harper with just the 3. For context, Sam Harper only scored 153 runs in 11 matches last year. So he's already outdoing that number by 40 runs and counting. This season, Sam Harper's scores read: did not bat, 55, 110 not out, and 29 not out. Meaning his average run scored for the tournament is literally 194. He could get out on the first ball of this match and he'd still be averaging 97 with the bat. I know Bradman was good, boys, but geez. In all seriousness, look, Harper will be featured in my lineups, and it's actually not as scary as it seems. Like you mentioned earlier, Dill, the Stars have 2 matches, meaning that we're going to get those 2 bites at the cherries and get the best individual score that those players can hit. So he's just hitting the ball so cleanly, isn't he? He's got so much confidence at the top of the order there. It's tough to bet against him with the form that he's in, but it's going to be even tougher given that he's got 2 bites and 2 opportunities. So, yeah, you're going to be a pretty brave man for leaving him out when probably 2 rounds ago you would have been a pretty brave man for putting him in.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's all off the back of the whole Stars performance as well. The bowlers have been going really well, and then the batsmen, as a result, have had that confidence to just go out there and do their thing. So I think, yeah, as a whole team, look, they might finally put it together for a whole season and end up with their first win of the tournament as well, winning the whole thing. So, yeah, good luck to them and good luck to anyone that does do the Harper-Joe Clark double.
Yeah, they certainly are going along quite nicely. Probably 5 or 10 minutes away from the bat flip, boys. So we'll get some team lists shortly. Let's get straight into the all-rounder position. On screen, for those listening, we've got the top averaging all-rounders. Jackie Edwards continuing to succeed there. Marcus Stoinis in number 2 with an average of 79. Matty Short, 76. Wildermuth, after averaging 100 through 3 rounds, is slowly coming back down to the rest. Still sitting there at an average of 76. Chrissy Jordan, 65. And Jamie Overton with a nice score last night to bump his average back up above 60 to 63. Haz, who are you looking at in the all-rounder position, mate?
We'll continue on with this Stars theme. My all-rounder this week is going to be Tommy Curran, and basically comes down to the form he's showing with the ball and the matchups he's walking into in round 9. Curran's so far been really good this season, producing a low score of just 25 across his 4 games. He's taken at least 1 wicket in every match, including 3 wickets in 2 of those, which highlights just how reliable that role is and has been for Tom Curran this season and the Stars. As we've talked about, they've been so good so far this year. He also brings genuine ceiling. He best shown by his 103-point performance against the Sixers in round 5. That score included 3 wickets, a maiden, and a catch, perfectly showcasing what happens when everything clicks for him. And the matchups only strengthen the case for Tom Curran this round, regardless of the double. The Heat have allowed 41.8 GDS points to all-rounders this season, while the Renegades have been even more generous to all-rounders, conceding the second most points in the competition at 48.4. So, because he gets 2 cracks at that cherry, hopefully he'll be able to put at least 1 decent score on the board. So that alone puts Curran firmly in play. But when you lay in that current role, it just gets even better. Now, we know that he's pretty reliant on his wicket-taking ability so far this season. And with that Stars batting lineup in pretty red-hot form, he hasn't had many opportunities with the bat. He's had 1 bat for 2 runs. But that simply doesn't really matter. He's bowling the key overs. He's averaging nearly 10 dot balls a game and consistently finding ways to break those partnerships. So, as I said, with that double game where his best score will count, I think he's a very safe play this week in, once again, a pretty loaded all-rounder spot. I'll be putting in Tom Curran in most of my sides this round.
Yeah, I like that, Haz. And very similar to what Dill was talking about with Shawnee Abbott, that probably relying more on him as a bowling all-rounder and making sure he can get the points with ball in hand. But he's definitely proved that, and the Stars have a clear plan for Tom Curran now, don't they? Bowling that first over. He's been really dangerous, obviously, with that maiden over a couple of starts ago. And then he's also bowling some key overs, which are really conducive to wickets as well. If the Stars end up batting first eventually, and if they post a massive total, even better for their bowling outfit and even better for Tommy Curran. He might come in for a bit of a late cameo in the first innings and then help defend a nice big total in the second innings. So, yeah, the likelihood of that happening at least once over the next 2 rounds, I like it. So, I think Tommy Curran, good shout. Where are you looking, Dill?
Yeah, look, I know we say this each and every round, but the all-rounder position is probably the hardest to pick this round, more so than any other round. Look, pretty much every team is playing, so there's some unreal options there. The strikers have got the double in terms of all-rounder options in Matt Short and Overton. The Stars have a triple all-rounder option in terms of Stoinis, Maxwell, and that man Curran. The Canes have got Owen and Jordan. Scorchers have got Marsh, Hardy, Turner. There's just so many options, and there's going to be teams. I almost feel like playing the triple Stars players are going to be pretty popular as well with them playing the double. Yeah. So look, I'm going to go somewhere else, and I'm going to potentially look at a few other players. But for me, it's all about the story. And the Scorchers have allowed an average of 55.1 GDS points to all-rounders this season. So that's the most in the competition. And if we look at that and we filter by batting position, it's the number 6s that have done the damage against them. So that's Edwards and Sams. And we know that they're that can swing the bat when they need to. So for that reason, I'm looking at the strikers version of that in Jamie Overton, who is coming off that 3-wicket haul against the Heat last night. And obviously that wasn't great to see for any Heat fan, but great for everyone that did play and keep their faith in Jamie Overton. We haven't seen a huge amount of runs scored from Overton, but we know that he can have a big innings, and we've seen that in the past. And it can't be too far away. He just probably hasn't had the true opportunity. And as you talked about last show, Stu, he's been a bit unlucky with the bat as well, getting out with a couple of cheap balls. However, he has shown his true 3-dimensional all-rounder ability, which is some love each and every round, is looking at those players that can offer as many points as possible in as many different ways as possible. He's averaging 37 with ball in hand. He's averaging 15.5 with the bat, and then he's averaging 10 in the field. Putting that in perspective, the only other all-rounder that is averaging more than Overton, averaging 11 GDS points per game with catches and runouts. So I think that's a really key stat for me as well. That Overton, we saw it last night. He took 2 catches. He's always in the game. He's there and thereabouts. He wants to compete. He's so keen to get involved, and I think it just makes option for me to go and plug and play Jamie Overton now pretty much each and every week. The hard decision then comes in. Do we play Matt Short as well? Do we play Maxwell as well? Where are we looking for our 4th option when there's so many elite players to go from? It's hard to pass up on Jamie Overton, though, so I'm going to throw him into at least 1 or 2 of my lineups for sure.
Yeah, and you didn't even mention the top overall point scorer in the all-rounder position in Jack Edwards, and trying to find a spot for him as well. So round 9, yeah, going to be super interesting there for the all-rounder spot, particularly given the stars are on the double there. Got me on in the house. Thanks for joining as always, buddy. A little bit late. Yeah, that happens. Probably a bit of a busy night last night, but an earlier start as well, given the 2 games, and we've got the earlier start as well. Boys, it looks like we have got a toss, so or a bat flip, and I will get to my all-rounder start for round 9 shortly. But let's just spend a moment here to chat about today's game. Has anyone got team lists, actually? We do know that, here we go, Mel's coming in with the goods. Yeah, g'day, Mel. Thanks for joining us, as always. The Sixers, surprise, surprise, they've won the bat flip, and they are going to bowl first. We've got the Renegades 11 here on screen. Not in batting order again. I don't want to make any jokes at this stream because
don't do that. We got in trouble last time. Of course.
So that is the 11, but it's definitely not in batting order. Although it would be great, wouldn't it, boys? Anyone got a Sixers lineup?
I haven't seen anything
We'll
yet.
keep that on screen for now then. Are there any changes?
Spores. Zampa's out and Spores is in.
And Spores is in. So the one change there. Boys, what do we think about, what do we make of AJ Ty? Obviously, not with the team to start the season. The Renegades are down on a few troops, and gee, he looked pretty handy, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he did look actually really good, considering he's pretty much come from no cricket at all, and he really all-round performance. He swung the bat for a couple runs. He bowled really well. So he's definitely someone that I'm looking to play in round 8.
Dill, are you going to run out an AJ Ty?
Yeah, it's hard. I think I will in one of my competitions, in one of my squads. I still like Behrendorff. Obviously he didn't get a wicket last game after we pumped up his tyres, but I still like him. It's just maybe that AJ Ty is stealing a bit of his thunder a little bit as well, and that might be playing into it. But yeah, I think I'm still going to play Behrendorff in a couple, and then maybe AJ Ty in the other. Look, just quickly, the batting lineup. It looks like Brown and Seifert opening, Rizwan with the gloves at first drop. Fraser McGurk, Peake, Hassan Khan, Spores slots in there, and then Sandhu, Ty, and Behrendorff, which you're just putting up on screen now. So not too much change there. Pretty similar. I guess the question mark is over. Do we go with Will Sutherland as our 4th all-rounder? Is that an option that you're looking at again after his success last week or last round?
Yeah, for me, I'm pretty keen on Will Sutherland, particularly given what's happening with the ball there at Marvel and the opportunities for the all-rounders, both with bat and ball. Plenty of runs can be scored on that deck, but also a lot of wickets can get taken as well. I think I had a look at some numbers earlier, and there were about 160 runs scored chasing, and 6 or 7 wickets down as well. And that was a winning score, a winning chase. But the team chasing still lost plenty of wickets. So hopefully we're not going to see a match where, a bit like last night, where the batting team in the second innings coasts to a victory and only loses the 1 or 2 wickets. We know that Will Sutherland and the Renegades batsmen are going to get an opportunity there, but it looks like with the Sixers bowling first, I think that the Sixers are going to, the Renegades might have to bat really well in order to put a defendable target on the board, so that the likes of Will Sutherland and Jason Behrendorff come into play. I would have probably preferred that they had bowled first to guarantee those overs. So a little bit less excited about them now with that in mind. But yeah, look, who knows?
Yeah. And I've just got the Sixers team through. Not too much variance there. The key one that I'm going to bring up in a second is that Hayden Kerr is actually at the end of the order. You've got that there. So Hayden Kerr listed as 11th. Do we think that's going to stay?
That's surprising,
or do we think that he's going to move up the order at some point?
Well, yeah, so many of those players can float, can't they? We've seen Benny Dorcius come ahead of Jack Edwards in the past as well to pinch hit. Shawnee Abbott is just as capable. Hayden Kerr's probably even better than him.
Yeah.
Gee, that's a pretty awesome batting lineup if they are going to need it in the second innings. But what do I got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so still the 5 or 6 frontline bowlers. So we should still expect 4 overs from the likes of Jack Edwards. Ben Dorsch will be pretty popular. Shawnee Abbott should get his 3 or 4. Hayden Kerr could be a bit of a pod for those looking to take the risk as well. What are your thoughts there, Dill?
Just quickly, and I might be wrong here, but is there anyone in that Sixers lineup that is just an out-and-out bowler for GDS? I think they're all rounders, if I'm not mistaken.
What's Benny Manenti?
Maybe Ben Manenti might be.
Del Davies is
either way. I think that all that does is just to be able to pick some bowlers for this, for the round. I think that they've actually just played into our hand quite nicely. We can just fade Sixers bowlers completely because they don't have one, and we can just focus on the other 3 teams and put together a nice bowling lineup. So something like what Nian said earlier, playing potentially together, I think could be an option as well. Although they're not bowling first, so that, as he said, it might be a little bit more difficult. But yeah, I really like that the Sixers haven't got an actual bowling player for GDS purposes.
Yeah, that is quite surprising, isn't it? Just showing how versatile and flexible that side is, that they can get it done with both bat and ball. Yeah, that's the interesting point there, Mian, isn't it? That the Renegades aren't bowling first. So, yeah, if they don't put on a big enough total, they're not going to have a lot to defend. But if you flip it around, if they bat well and put on a huge score and the bowlers have plenty to bowl at, could be plenty of wickets for those two. And Will Sutherland, yeah, makes things tough. All right, boys, anything more on those two on that match before we continue the round 9 fixture preview?
No, we're good.
No, let's go.
Righto, so we just finished talking about a couple of all-rounders. Dill spoke about Jamie Overton and has Tommy Curran. Boys, I'm going to follow in the theme of from Has there, who talked about Tom Curran. My all-rounder is going to be Glennie Maxwell. So similar to Sammy Harper, I love the upside that Glenn Maxwell brings to this round, where we only need him to go off and score well once. His GDS scores have obviously been pretty underwhelming so far, with 30 points, 4, 30, and then recently a 60, where he spent some valuable time in the middle. He looked unreal when he moved to number 3 just to get some time out there in the middle. He was just having fun. He scored 39 not out off 20 balls and was hitting them to all parts of the ground, which proves that he's definitely still got it. He hasn't lost it. We just haven't seen it enough this tournament. We've been mostly relying on fielding points. But the most interesting part about that is simply because I think the game script has been against him for a big part this season. And what I mean by that is that the Stars have bowled first on each of those occasions, meaning they're yet to bat for a full 20 overs and post a big 20 over score. They've obviously been really good with the bat, and the top order has been going along nicely. And if they've struggled, then Stoinis has come out there and got the job done. We saw a big innings from Campbell Kellaway as well. There hasn't really been that need for Glenn Maxwell, apart from once when he came out in that second innings and had that disappointing 4. But look, surely we're going to see that at least once the Stars lose the toss and don't opt to bowl first. The moment their opposition team wins the toss, they're certainly going to send the Stars into bat, and that's going to be great for the likes of Glenn Maxwell and even Tommy Curran, who might get a late order cameo later on as well. So this is really important because it means Glenn Maxwell will come in at the right time. He'll either move up the order and consolidate a really nice start from the top order and probably form a nice middle order partnership there with Marcus Stoinis, or if they're going along really nicely, he'll be held back later on into things where he can come out during the power surge and the last, handful of overs where he can just go absolutely nuts. And he only needed 20 balls to score 40 last innings. He's certainly capable of doing that again. So when that power surge is happening, the field is obviously up, and that's where he can manipulate the ground. And then once the fielders go back out, he's so good at finding the gaps or even just hitting the ball over everyone where the men on the boundary don't even play a factor. So yeah, look, I'm betting against the Stars winning both tosses. Surely they're going to lose at least one and be sent in. This is where I expect Maxwell to star. If not, again, we're going to need to rely on him in the field and maybe getting a couple of cheap wickets does bowl. But look, there's safety, given that he's got the excellent hands in the field. But look, dare I say it, the big show may just feature in all three of my teams this week purely because he's surely going to get something done with the bat. If he's doing well with the bat, chances are he does pretty well with the ball as well. What do you make of that, Dill?
Yeah, look, firstly, I want to go back to what you said about his quick 39 off just 20 balls. I think I put it into Discord, was one. The game really, to be honest, was wrapped up. There was no way the Stars were losing that. And look, it's great for Maxwell to come out and show off his skill and his talent when the game is already won. But I want to see it when it's in the hard overs, when he's doing the hard yards. We haven't seen that from him yet. And as you said, he got out cheaply with that 4 because, I mean, that was his fault as well. He didn't really run the second, and then he put himself on strike and he got out. So, I want to see more from him. I think it's easy. It's not easy, but it's easier to come out when the game's all wrapped up pretty much, and you're just trying to get the rate up for the end of the season. And he comes out and smacks 39 really quickly off 20. I feel like there's a host of options that could have done that as well. We've seen Stoinis do that plenty of times. So yeah, I want to see it in the hard overs. But look, to your point, Maxwell's a great option, especially as has said. The Gades allow the second most GDS points to all-rounders this season, almost up to 50. So it's hard to pass on pretty much any all-rounder from the Stars that has 2 bites, that has a decent role. Stoinis, Curran and Maxwell, I think, are all really good options. And I just don't know if I could get all 3 across all 3 of my squads as well. I think I'm going to have to diversify across. They all do well, so it means that all my squads do well.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Right, boys. We'll move on to the bowler position for round 9. Just a quick round 8 bowler query. I might answer this quickly, and then anyone else can jump in with any of their thoughts. But Miana's asked about he probably only wants to play one of Behrendorff and Ty. If we had to choose between the two and make the tough decision to leave one out, where are we leaning? For me, it's Jason Behrendorff that's going to get the nod, and the stats don't tell too much of a story if we're only comparing them in this season. We just need to look back to last year where they both played more than 10 matches, and Jason Behrendorff was by far the better bowler. Obviously, a little bit younger in his career, and Ty was moving on. But we only saw AJ Ty average 33 GDS points. He played just the 6 matches. He didn't have much of a go off the bat at all. He took the 5 wickets in those 6 matches, but we got to remember that Jason Behrendorff was the leading wicket taker, and he was outstanding for the Perth Scorchers, where he just took, I think it was 18 or so wickets. So with that in mind, we know that Behrendorff is going to bowl some of the tougher overs early on. If you think he might be able to do a little bit with the ball early on, and then later on during the surge, versus AJ Ty probably getting some of those middle type overs through the middle of the innings, where the batsman might be trying to pluck some singles or maybe trying to consolidate and hit out. And that's sort of where AJ Ty can. I know I'm sitting on the fence slightly there. Jason Behrendorff, obviously the more quality bowler and recently the bigger wicket taker, but AJ Ty probably a bit of a stretch from his peak performance. You two think something similar, or are you going to take the risk in AJ Ty instead?
No, definitely.
No, I'm sorry, Haz. I'm gonna stick with you as well, Stu, in Behrendorff. Just looking at stats as well, if Mian needed some more. Not once did AJ Ty take more wickets than Jason Behrendorff last season, and it doesn't look like he had more dot balls either. So Behrendorff is able to take more dot balls and take more wickets than AJ Ty across the games they did play together last season for the Scorchers. So I would expect something similar from the Renegades. Sorry, Haz, what were you going to say, mate?
I was going to say if Jason Behrendorff is actually my target bowler for round 9, so I think this might actually help the conversation a little bit for Mian. It's round 8 relevant as well, but if we're looking at Behrendorff versus Ty and what their role is within the side, I think Behrendorff's definitely a guy for round 8 and probably round 9 as well. So I will be targeting Jason Behrendorff for round 9 against the Melbourne Stars. He isn't on screen. He's not amongst the top 5 averaging bowlers. And to be honest, he did let me down big time last week. Like you said, Dill, I sat here and I spooked him up after his 12 games in a row with a wicket. And then he went wicketless for the first time. I did also say that he had probably the safest floor of any bowler in the competition. Well, that floor certainly fell out from underneath all of us. Barron delivered his worst game in 2 years, scoring just 10 points, and that all came from dot balls. He only bowled the 3 overs, and with the Hurricanes chasing that target down before the 20th over, he missed that opportunity to bowl the final over of the innings. Now, I admit the matchup probably isn't ideal, and once again, we're talking about round 9 against the Stars. The Stars have allowed the fewest points to bowlers this season, just 19.6 points per game, and only 10 points per game to fast bowlers. But Behrendorff did have success against them last season. He scored 58 points, all thanks to a wicket, a maiden, a catch, and 15 dot balls. So we can see that even though he doesn't get a high wicket tally, he can still manage to rack up the points and put together a very respectable score for himself. So role-wise, I don't think anything's really changed. He's still getting the 2 overs in the power play. He's 1 through the middle of the innings and 1 at the death. Ty and Sandhu were trusted with those power surge overs last game against the Hurricanes, and they were taken for 26 runs. Yes, they did get 2 wickets, but they did get taken for 26 runs. So there's every chance the Gades go back to Behrendorff potentially in that role in the power surge. So for me, like once again, talking about round 9, it might be a pride play. The matchup doesn't suggest that Behrendorff might be the option, but I'm going to back the class and the role. I expect Behrendorff to bounce back and get amongst the wickets against the table-topping Stars. That we're probably due for a quieter night. When we sat here talking about the Stars and how good they've been all season long, they are probably due for that really underwhelming performance. And I think Jason Behrendorff could be a bowler that really tests some of the batsmen, especially at those big square boundaries at the MCG where he tries to make the batsman play to the square of the wicket. So I'm going to look to play him in at least one of my sides. But due to that Stars double where we've got Siddle and Ralph, and I'm sure we'll probably talk about those guys in a minute, I'll look to throw him in where possible. But if the Gates can win the toss and bowl first, and I know, Mian, you said this just before about tonight, it only becomes more appealing because he'll be guaranteed those 4 overs.
Yeah, definitely. And back to Mian's question as well, I think, all of those stats just lead to both playing Behrendorff in round 8 and round 9. So, yeah I think load up on both. Yeah, good on you, Haz.
Yeah, beauty. Love that. More confident, obviously, today than bowling against the Stars, but you're spot on there, Haz. I think we're every chance of seeing that happening. A big maxi showdown with Jason Behrendorff could be pretty entertaining. It's just tough when you've got both in your side and you want Maxi to score runs and a Behrendorff wicket. Isn't that the hardest thing about GDS cricket? Anyway, Dill, who do you like in the bowler position, mate, for round 9?
Yeah, look, on screen, for those the playback, we can see that we've got some top averaging bowlers. We've got Luke Wood on 59, Harris Ralph on 55, Siddle just behind him on 54, and then Bartlett and Hassan Ali both on 50. Look, I'm going to target Harris Ralph again this week, and it's another Stars players. And look, the way I'm going Stars, which we know that's not a great option. We know that it's concerning because we saw so many times last season that the double gamers just weren't as successful sometimes. And we put so much stock and faith into double gamers, and we're really burnt, and a lot of coaches were burnt because of that. So yeah, it's just something to be mindful of, that remember, it's just their best score from the 2 games. It's not a combined total. It's just their best score from the 2 games that they play. But it's still hard to pass up on Harris Ralph with the double. Look, Stu, you predicted it back in round 6, a big Harris Ralph performance and a low Siddle performance, and that came to fruition and down nature of the 2 fast bowlers. And look, if we continue along that format, we should see a big game from Siddle against the Heat in their first game in round 9. And then we're going to follow that up with a massive game from Harris Ralph, a following game against the Gades. And that's really where I'm targeting Harris Ralph. I don't mind if he has that down game first, but it's that big bounce back game that I want against the Gades. This season, the Gades have allowed an average of 29.7 bowling only points. So it's not a whole GDS points, just from bowling, 29.7 to opposition, which is the most in the competition. And if we filter just by bowling type, it's the quicks that do the most damage, averaging 40 bowling points per fast bowler against the Gades, which again is the most in the competition. If we need more stats, if you want some more stats to convince you, I definitely have them, and I've got you covered. Harris Ralph is currently averaging 54.75 GDS points, which has come all from his bowling stats. He doesn't have any other stat to back it up. It's just compare those bowling stats to the rest of the bowlers, and he has the highest average of any bowler across the competition, just purely based on off his ball. I think Luke Wood is the only one that's ahead of him. He's had a couple of cracks at bat for a couple of points there. But if we compare it, he's ahead of the likes of Siddle, his teammate, on 51.5, and then Luke Wood on 50. So he's definitely ahead in terms of bowling. And I think if you filtered by averages on GDS, you'll see that Bartlett's just below him as well. And Bartlett's had 38 odd runs added to his GDS total. Hasn't had any runs or fielding stats. So I'm just loading up on him to have a big game against the Gades and do a lot of damage with the ball.
Yeah, right. I think that's definitely likely to happen. Hopefully the Stats Lab can let us know some ownership percentages. Be really interesting to see not just how many teams are rolling out Harris Ralph, but all Melbourne Stars players. Actually, that'll be interesting, even if it's after the round begins and we can't obviously change our Melbourne Stars players. I'd love to see GDS community thinking about in terms of player ownership, particularly for those, the Melbourne Stars double game. Boys, I'd love to talk about another Stars player, given their double match and one being against that extremely vulnerable Heat, like you mentioned, but I'll go elsewhere. And that'll be in the Thunder versus Hurricanes match on Saturday. Now, after a slowish start to the tournament, Canes leggy Rashad Hussain has been ultra impressive. He only took 3 wickets in his first 3 matches before he returned figures of 3 for 33 against the Scorchers over in Perth, and then 2 for 34 against the Gades. He's got an average of 64 in his past 2 matches. He's really starting to find some rhythm and taking some nice wickets. Batsmen are sort of trying to move the score along and go after him a little bit. And he's bowling in tandem really nicely with a number of the other bowlers down there in Hobart. And I think they're starting to put things together after a bit of a slow start. He now gets to play on what we can consider arguably the most conducive surface to spinners. And we know that the bowlers are scoring plenty of runs, plenty of GDS points at NG Stadium. We saw 18 wickets fall in the most recent Thunder versus Scorchers match. So every chance we see plenty of wickets tumble once again, and Rashad Hussain will definitely be amongst them if that is the case. He obviously plays this evening against the Scorchers at Ninja. So if he gets another multi-wicket game, he probably won't be around 9 pod that I'm hoping for, but I won't be complaining tonight. If he does go quiet and only gets a wicket, he might be less on the radar of some coaches. I think he's primed for a nice big score against the Thunder later on in round 9.
Yeah, look, just quietly, I do hope he has a big game tonight because I'm actually playing him in a couple of my squads. So, hopefully he has a big game. But yeah, we'll wait and see.
Rightio, on screen for everyone playing at home, here are the Fantasy Bros consensus round 9 team. Obviously, we haven't taken into consideration round 8 due to start. Is that a 3 o'clock start or a 3:15?
think it's a 3 o'clock starts in about 10 minutes time. So we can wrap this up.
Let's race through this so we can make any last minute changes if we need to. So round 9 consensus team, we got Sammy Harper, Cooper Conley, Finn Allen, Matty Renshaw. Pretty strong all-rounders in Stoinis, Matt Short, Jamie Overton, and Glenn Maxwell. The bowling trio of Harris Ralph, Nathan Ellis, and Pete Siddle. So plenty of double gamers in our consensus 11. And we think Rashad Hussain and Aaron Hardy could be pretty handy pods on the single game week, but definitely in some pretty decent spots to go big. Brodown Showdown. Disappointing once again for the bowler position. I don't think we've had a bowler win at all. It's always been a batsman or an all-rounder. Maybe next year we might do maybe the bowler position gets double points or something that might make things more interesting. It still wouldn't have won this round. Haz and Cooper Conley still would have won with 79 points. Matty Short, just the 44 points, and Riley Meredith on 35. So, Haz, a couple of packs coming your way, mate. And Dill, you're going to spin a wheel and see who is in line for a couple of cards as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think this round was the most votes for our Brodown Showdown. If you voted for Haz, you'll see yourself on screen on the wheel. We've got Coach Stephen, TC Triple B, Maxi, Mianji Gaming, Cozzy, and NRL D3F. Boys, can you see that on screen there?
Yes.
Beauty, let's spin that wheel. Good luck, everyone. I think this is the first week Timo didn't get around a winner as well.
Oh, Timo.
And Maxi.
Alrighty, it is Maxi.
Well done, Maxi.
Maxi, love your
work.
Very
good. Alrighty, I will jump over to my screen. And what are you going to do? First pack goes to Maxi. Haz, happy with that?
Yeah, first pack to Maxi.
Righto, here's our rare pack. First 3 cards to Maxi, next 3 to Haz. We got. If so, let us know. Give us a yell. Got a gold, 2 Des wins. Wow. You went for a coup.
Big.
And now you're going to get
the face.
Maxi.
And Travis had some news coming out today. I think gents probably unlikely to play for the Strikers this season. I think he's pretty keen for a bit of a rest after the Ashes, but he might be hungry and the Strikers might need him. We'll wait and see. But well done, Maxi. Gold Cooper Conley. You're definitely going to enjoy that one. And Haz for winning. Let's see what you can get, mate.
Let's hope for something good.
Got a platinum Vidler. Another gold Cooper Conley.
How good.
And do you want to use a Hayden Kerr tonight as a bit of a pod in your all-rounder spot?
No Hayden Kerr tonight.
No Hayden Kerr. Alrighty. Let's throw this back on to the current score sheet and who we're looking at for round 9. So neck and neck, boys. 2-2 after the first 6 showdowns. Yep.
How many of those winners were Cooper Conley?
Yeah, we'll go back through the stats, actually. That'll be pretty interesting. We'll see how many times he has won. We might have to do a ban at some point that you can't go for Cooper Conley anymore. But the ban's not in place yet, boys, so he's definitely my option for round 9 in the batsman position. You've got the all-rounder in Marcus Stoinis. Dill, Harris Ralph, he's on the double. If he gets one big bag, this is definitely an opportunity for a bowler to win Brodown Showdown. So just to remember, everyone currently in the comments right now, let us know if you think Haz, Stu, or Dill is going to win by commenting their names. Just again, Haz has gone for Stoinis, Stu with Connolly, and Dill with Harris Ralph. That's obviously for round 9. We're not doing a Brodown Showdown for round 8. So you got a bit of time to get those guesses in. Either get them in now or jump over to the Fantasy Bros YouTube channel and comment on that most recent video. I think this one could be pretty tight there, boys. Both of you with a double game there. All right, well, we've got about 5 minutes to spare until that first ball will be bowled in the Renegades and Sixers match. Hopefully not too many desperate changes we need to make, gents. So I hope you found the time to make some midstream. I know that I often do that when you guys are doing a lot of the talking. Thanks, everyone, for joining in once again for our round 8 and round 9 combined preview. Just a reminder, there won't be a round 9 preview tomorrow before that heat match. So we got that out of the way today, and you might see some of the Fantasy Bros and some of the Game Day Squad boys on TV at the Gabba tomorrow. Fingers crossed. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Good luck for round 8 and for round 9. We'll come back in round 10 on Monday, Jan the 5th at 5:05 for the normal 6:15 first ball. Good luck for the next 2 rounds. Good luck for those still in the comp. Dill, Haz, thanks as always, boys. Any final thoughts before we sign off?
Yeah, just quickly, I just want to give a quick shout out to a first-time viewer, Chelsea. I hope that you made it through all the way to the end of the pod. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, everyone. Good luck. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.
See you, everyone. Happy New Year.
See ya.